We are now recording. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, or thank you for joining us for another episode of Not For Nothing. I am here with a person I've known for quite a few years over the years, mainly through, actually I met you many years ago, but why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Lou Jaque. I am co-owner of Clockwork Tattoo. We have two locations, one in Massachusetts and Southbridge, and another one in Middletown, Connecticut. And yeah, Joe and I used to work together at Darkside many moons ago.
Yeah, so the first time I met you was actually, Eric was getting tattooed by me when I was on Long Island at Lotus Tattoo, and that would have been like probably 95 maybe?
Yeah, God, that was a while ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, somewhere around 1995.
So where did you get your start? So you're from New Britain originally, right?
I lived in New Britain. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but grew up in Connecticut, and I started tattooing at Body Graphics in South Windsor, Connecticut in 1992, right when I graduated high school.
Now, did you apprentice there, or?
I did. Yes, I had a very long apprenticeship there.
You had a very long apprenticeship there.
Yeah.
Who did you apprentice under there?
A guy named Tim Sullivan. He was one of the owners with another gentleman named Tom Moxley. But I actually learned most of the stuff that I would have to credit to Mike Fitz.
To Fitz.
Yes.
Now, when did you actually meet Fitz?
I met Mike Fitz before I started tattooing. I think I was 16 or 17. He tattooed me at his apartment. And then once I started tattooing, I continued to get tattooed for Mike, and he was really open with his knowledge. He was very cool about everything. Taught me a lot about machine building.
Before we touched on Mike Fitz when I talked to Jay Kelly from Pulse. Why don't you? Because I may not get the opportunity to speak to Fitz, and I kind of do want to talk to him. But
I hope you do.
So he originally was like the eastern part of the state of Connecticut, right?
Willimantic. Up by Yukon.
Okay, so. How did you find out about Fitz? It was before you started tattooing. You were getting into tattooing around 16 when you started to get tattooed.
Mm-hmm. So I met his brother. His brother was friends with a mutual friend, and he gave me Mike's business card, and I called him up one day, and I made an appointment with him. It was actually the day before me and a bunch of my friends were going to Cancun, so I did everything wrong. I got tattooed, went down to Mexico, burned the shit out of it in the sun, drank a lot, and had a great time, but actually, the tattoo held up great over the years. But,
oh, sweet.
Sometime later, he looked at it and he really hated it and wanted to cover it up. So he did a big Venom cover up on for me. And that was about probably 3 years after I initially got it.
So I met Fitz when he did the convention in Connecticut. Well, not the very first one. The first one he did at the, what was the club he did it at?
Webster.
And that was a 2 day? That was
a 1 day.
That was a 1 day shot. So this was like the first convention in Connecticut, I want to say.
I believe so, yeah.
And this was like a simple Webster, the Webster Hall, like people just showed up, fucking you tattooed. How big was that event?
I would say there was probably 20 artists, something like that. It was invite only. Mike picked everybody. It was all Connecticut shops, and the whole point was to try and promote Connecticut tattooing. It was a 1 day event, but it was great. He packed the place. It was a really good time.
Nice. Actually, if you can move, I don't know if it's, but the mic, just because it's right on your chain. I'm just afraid it's scraping across it. You can you can connect it to the chain, but I'm afraid it's scratching the chain. I don't want to worry about that later. Yeah, it should be fine.
All right.
Yes. So at that time, he basically picked everybody. Small time convention, and at that time I had been meeting Mike on the road. He was doing a lot of shows in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he used to go to Pennsylvania a lot.
For lack of a better way of putting it, and to be polite, like a lot of like-minded individuals.
yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I met him doing the conventions in Reading and Valley Forge, like all those conventions. And I was blown away by his work at the time. And he
was amazing, man. Absolutely amazing. Guy would freehand these massive back pieces of like battle scenes, and color was packed in perfect. Outlines were flawless.
He was like a total, like, you could tell he was the guy. He was the dude in high school that drew in on his notebooks. And
100%.
Probably painted painted jackets and all that other shit. Like, throughout high school and stuff.
Yeah, he was special though, man. And again, he was so willing to share his knowledge with anybody. He didn't have that old school mentality of we have to protect this and nobody else is getting in. He didn't mind sharing stuff with some of the younger guys.
Now, why do you think that is? Do you think it's because he wasn't in a shop at the time, or just because he was just down with being with hanging with younger dudes?
He told me at one point that he didn't mind sharing information with people because he could tell you anything that you wanted to know. He would answer any questions. It didn't mean that you were going to be able to do it, and you certainly weren't going to be able to all of a sudden turn around and do things as well as he could. So he didn't feel threatened.
Right.
Whereas a lot of the old school guys, I feel like if they shared knowledge with you, they were afraid that you were going to supersede them or take business from them somehow. And he just wasn't worried about that at all.
Oh, that's cool.
Because he was that good.
Right, exactly. So it's funny, like, so you start getting tattooed at 16. Did you have a want to get into tattooing, or were you just kind of like, it's funny because all the years I've known you, I knew a little bit that you started at Body Graphics, or that you worked at Body Graphics. I didn't know you actually started there.
Yeah.
And now the guy you apprenticed under, like, had he been tattooing for several years? Like, what was the deal? Like, what made him take you on as an apprentice?
I showed up with a portfolio full of drawings because I had gotten shot down by every other shop because they said that I didn't. Some of them just said no, kicked me out of the shop. Danny Williams wasn't too polite. Bill Loika.
So at least you went. Well, I mean, those were the guys back in the day. You had Inker, Williams. You had Danny Williams.
Inker, I was too afraid to walk in the shop.
Really, but you went to Danny Williams. Danny Williams' reputation like spread as far as like New York. Like everybody knew who he was. And he was not someone to fuck with.
Right, but I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know enough about these guys' individual personalities or quirks or whatnot. But the one thing I did know, that Inker was known as the badass guy you don't fuck with.
Okay, I mean that's kind of the reputation that he had when I came up here.
Yep.
And people talking like Tom Strom knew him very well.
Yep.
Inker had done his back piece. Well, started his back piece way back in the day.
Yep.
But Tom credits him for a lot of knowledge that passed his way. But it was like pulling fucking a pearl out of a fucking oyster.
I'll bet. I tried to get tattooed by him one time. I was all excited. I had the day off. I had a pocket full of cash. I made sure I was the first one at his shop because he never took appointments. It was first come, first serve. I walk in there and I was the only one there. I'm like, finally today I'm going to get tattooed by him. He was eating his lunch, and his girlfriend, who was working behind the counter, while he was eating, I asked how long I had before we were going to start because I was going to go grab something to eat. And she turned back to Inker and she's like, "Hey Steve, how long are you going to be till you can get started?" He took a big long breath, put his fork down, he looked over and he's like, "Can't you two see I'm eating my fucking lunch right now?" And I was just so off put, and it made me nervous, and I just walked out and I never tried to go back in again.
You know what the funny thing about this is, and this is what I've talked about to a bunch of different people, is the fact that back then it was such a different day. Like when you walked into a tattoo shop, you were walking into their home. You know what I mean? And it's like that till this day.
And with him, it was literally his home.
Literally. It was in the front room of his house.
Yes.
But we've given, and again, this is going to sound shitty, and it's not meant to be, but we've given up so much power when it came to what people listen to, what clients were put through when they came through the door. And when I mean put through, I don't mean like, you're making them fucking, you're putting them through the ringer to get them in the chair.
Yep.
But they did things your way. Now you got to put on the shows that they want to see, the music they want to listen to. God forbid you offend anyone with your off-color fucking comments or your vocabulary.
Yep.
So it's one of those things. Like, it is a bummer. I will admit there was a time between then and like the 98, 99 where we still had it. Like, where things got better and people like me were getting into the industry, people like you were getting into it. So you're a little bit more receptive to what people want to hear, but you're also not willing to give up what you want to have happen in your shop. Like you want to hear the music. If your client's like, "Hey, do you think you might listen to it and you might actually put it on for them." Where before it would have been like, shut the fuck up, sit down, and I'll fucking get this tattoo on. You listen to what I listen to.
I can honestly say in 32 years, I've only let one person ever change the music on me.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Well, I remember going to Dark Side back in the day, and it was like all fucking Connecticut hardcore. Yep. I don't know if you guys were listening to New York hardcore.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was New York hardcore.
Oh, yeah, no.
I mean, the scenes are pretty close. The scenes are pretty close.
Oh, yeah, they were very intermingled.
So,
without a doubt.
All right,
yeah.
so how old when you started tattooing at Body Graphics?
I had just graduated high school.
So 17,
18.
So you've been getting tattooed for almost 2 years.
I had 2 professional tattoos before that. Well, no, I'm sorry, 3. So yeah, it was about 2 years. First one was Mike Fitz. Or first 2 were Mike Fitz. The second one, I jumped into starting a full back piece with a guy named Pat Walsh.
Okay.
Went by the name Wildman.
Yeah, Wildman.
Currently incarcerated. Yeah. Not a... He was an intimidating man, to say the least.
Yeah. How long did your apprenticeship last? You said it was pretty fucking long.
Well, it felt like forever. In all reality, it was just about a year.
Well, that's not terrible. That's about right. I mean...
Yeah. Like I said, it felt a lot longer than that because they made me do a lot of fucked up shit.
Okay, now when you say fucked up shit, like fucked up shit in the sense that you're scrubbing toilets or whatever, or they made you do some fucked up shit?
Cleaning up dog kennels at home.
Oh, so you really...
Yeah, not being of age and having to go out and purchase alcohol for guys at the shop. Drive halfway across the state to pick up a guy that didn't have a car so that he could get to work.
So life lessons.
Rip a dead cat out of the boss's motor. Because Tom went out to start his vehicle one day and there was a cat in it and it got all wrapped up in the fan blade and he wasn't going to touch it, so I had to do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but, okay, that is pretty rough. That does
disgusting.
That does kind of suck.
Also work at the biker parties, bartending.
Okay.
Just do whatever the hell they told me to do.
So that was kind of like, but to me, I think that stuff is kind of like, they're life lessons, You know, it's also opening up to a world that you would have never been privy to had you not gotten into.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I don't regret any of it, and I don't slight them for anything they ever did to me.
Now, how long? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, because you're right, it does teach you life lessons. It teaches you that there's always a way to get something done.
Right.
No matter how insurmountable the task seems at the time, if you want it bad enough, you'll figure out a way to do it.
And I think that's tattooing in a fucking nutshell from back in the day, because if you think about it, nothing was ever, you went to a couple of suppliers back in the day, but before that, there was none of that. You made your own tubes, made your own needles, made your own pigment. You did all that dumb shit.
Yeah, you had one guy to buy everything from, pretty much. Huck Spalding.
Exactly. Spalding, at that, the National's coming out.
Yep, National had just started emerging.
Demographics starts up, and now you can buy stuff from them. Like, when I got into it, it was National Demographics. We didn't deal too much with Spalding. I didn't start buying through Spalding until we moved to New Hampshire and we started buying pigment. We were buying raw pigment so that we can mix our own pigments.
Oh, God.
So, did you ever do any of that stuff?
I tried it once.
So both you and Eric at Darkside, when I met you, you both have solid machine knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know a lot about machines. Where did that come from? Like, is that something you picked up on your own?
Mike Fitz.
From Fitz himself.
Yep.
So Fitz, if anybody else didn't know, was a fucking phenomenal machine builder.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I have an old Percy Waters frame that my wife had given me. She found it in an antique shop down in Tennessee. Gave it to me as a gift. I gave it to Fitz. He did fuck with it a tiny bit. He took the he changed the whatchamacallit, the tube vise on it. Because it was just a super small tube vise and he didn't want to fuck with it too much. So he actually put this new tube vise on it. But that machine, till this day, I mean, again, I don't use coils much anymore, but that machine was one of my favorite machines for a long time. I use that thing nonstop.
I wish I still had all mine. Over the years, some of them wandered. I don't know how. I made the mistake of trading one of them for 2 machines that turns out I hated, and I couldn't get the kid to trade back.
Well, that is one of those things, though, too. You get caught up in the moment. You get into, like, what you think is going to be a great machine or what you think you really, really fucking want.
Well, they're young and stupid, not even thinking about the future or realizing the value of the machines that I had from him.
Right.
And how much knowledge was poured into those, because he learned everything from Lyle Tuttle, pretty much.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
And so you would have assumed he would have known what he was fucking doing when it came to machines that you were going to take off of him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fucking bummer, actually.
Yeah, no, there's one kid that I'm still friends with, Jeff Terranelli, and I hope he still has that machine that I traded him. And if he does, maybe someday he'll let me buy it back.
I was gonna say, there's a good chance he's probably not fucking using it because everybody else has kind of gone the way of fucking.
Yeah, I don't know. You remember Jeff Terranelli?
Yeah, I know the name. I'm trying to remember where I know him.
He's the one who moved out to Seattle. He worked at
Yes. Now he's working down in whatchamacallit. He's in Oregon now, isn't he?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, I just saw him actually at, I don't want to bring it up here, but Dave Gagne had passed away.
Sorry,
he was out there for that. So, yeah, that's a fucking bummer, dude.
Yeah. But Jeff's great.
So he did mention the fact that he was at a machine building seminar in Oregon. It would have only been a few years ago. So there's a very good chance he's actually still using coils.
Oh, God, I hope so. Well, he's still doing a lot of more traditional-based work.
Right, exactly.
A lot of the poly-inspired tribal and all that stuff.
Right.
And doing it very well, which is funny, too, because back in the day, he was quoted in an interview in a magazine as saying that tribal was the scourge of the earth and needed to be eradicated.
And now he's fucking... Well, you move out to fucking the West Coast, especially in Northwest.
Well,
it's I don't want to say it's like backwards, but they have definitely embraced a lot of what we came up in this business. I don't want to say hating, but being less than enthused about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, see, I love the tribal. I still love it.
Oh, I remember back in the day, you were super jazzed about doing tribal, but everybody in Darkside, I remember going there. Everybody kind of did tribal. Like
that was the
I
thing.
think it was a super popular thing up this way.
Oh my God, it was huge.
Because when I came up here. Well, actually, when I was doing guest spots up here, the tribal thing had kind of died down in New York. And it could also be the fact that I'm now in a different shop. We had a shit ton of color flash.
Yep.
I was doing a lot of black and gray biker tattoos in the beginning. The first year I was at Lotus, and then got to do one cool color tattoo, and it just blew the fuck up. And I never went back to doing tribal or black and gray or anything. Black and gray occasionally. But for the most part,
black and gray is excellent, by the way. I love it.
Oh, appreciate that because I'm still I'm still trying to get a grasp on
it. Man, you're doing great.
You know, but so now you were in bands back in the day, like so you're good friends with Hatebreed from up this way, right?
Chris Beatty, the bass player, is a friend of mine. I never get to see him. They blew up. They're huge. My buddy Dave was the original drummer. I met Jamie many times over the years. As early as when I was like probably 17, because one of my bands used to come down to New Haven and play a lot closer with the guys at 100 Demons.
Okay, right.
Rish is the drummer. He's a really good friend of mine.
You did a bunch of artwork for them back in the day. I remember that.
Yeah, I did one of their CD covers, and hopefully we're doing another one soon.
Nice. So now you were playing in bands in high school then?
Yep.
How far did that follow into the tattoo career?
Until I was 25 when I had my daughter.
25. Okay, so it was after I met you then. I mean, yeah, but you quit before I had met you then. No, I know you were still tattooing.
Yeah, I was
and
still
doing the band.
I was still at Darkside
before I came up to Darkside, I think you were already out of the bands. I came up here in 2002. I'm going to put you at what age? I don't even know because I remember you were talking about bands, but I don't remember ever hearing you being at practice or anything like that.
Let's see, 1999. Is when I stopped playing music.
Okay, so that makes sense. It would have been 2 years before I got it, 2-3 years before I came up here.
Yep. Yeah, my wife and I had a daughter. No.
You don't miss it at all?
I mean, I liked playing, I liked writing, I liked being in the studio, but I don't miss going out, I don't miss setting up, I don't miss any of that crap whatsoever. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And, when you're not getting paid big money every time, it's a lot of work for self-gratification, which is great, but that doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you a question. Like back in the day, there was a lot. So Darkside for me was my introduction to Darkside was Eric. Eric was just starting to slightly make a name for it. Hey, he hadn't even actually started making a name for himself. He had started getting tattooed by me, and that's when I was turned on to his work. In turn, turned on to what was going on at the shop. I do a guest spot out there, passing through every now and again, and the stories and the fucking the shenanigans that went on at Darkside. You had guys like Crazy J, you had Joel, you had fucking Joey Apartments. I mean, you guys were, for lack of a better word, you were like a dysfunctional fucking family.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys were just fucking tweaked. You have a lot, I don't know if you want to touch on this, but you have a lot of, you had a reputation as being very experimental with some narcotics.
Yeah,
like so, but
sure.
Yeah.
We partied.
What was the airport? Wasn't there an airport story? You want to tell the story or not tell the story?
I tried to get on a plane with a speeding ticket, and it didn't work out. and I was escorted off the premises.
So basically, he didn't have, like, you had a speeding ticket.
I had a speeding ticket.
But it was a physical speeding ticket that you were using to try to get on the plane.
Yeah.
Did you actually have a flight that you were supposed to get on, or you just decided to show up at the airport with a speeding ticket?
Yeah, I did have a flight I was trying to get on.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I was supposed to go down to Florida and visit my parents.
Okay.
Yeah. And I never made it.
You never made it.
No.
So that
ended up with a weekender, as we call it.
A weekender. You did?
In the hospital, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the stories. Like, I remember it, like, whenever somebody talked about you, you were like this fucking, like loose cannon.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, sure.
When you were in that mode, nobody knew where this was going to go.
Yeah. Every day was an adventure.
Yeah. So, are you happy those days are gone, or are they gone?
Oh, no, they're gone. Oh, yeah, no, they're absolutely gone. A little weed and some beers, and that's about it. Anything beyond that, I don't want to even be in the same room with it.
All right.
No. Well, having a kid will make you grow up real quick, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But even with that stuff, it had been a couple of years since I had been partying like that.
Yeah, before that, yeah. No, that's true. Because when I I'd gone there, most of the stories that were being told were just that. They were stories. It wasn't last night. I think I remember going there and seeing, like, the back wall of all the photos. And you got the photo where, you know, Crazy J somebody showed up with a fucking stun gun or something.
Yeah. No, we had one in the back room.
Oh, you had a stun gun in the back room?
Yes. And so I was cleaning back there one day. Jay was there, and also my buddy Tommy Gunn that owned the gun shop on Brantford Hill. So I pull out the stun gun, I'm playing with it. And Tommy's like, those things are for pussies. They don't do shit. He grabbed it. He's hitting himself in the neck, in the stomach, in the thigh, and he's holding it, and he's like, yeah, he's loving it. So I get all excited. I grabbed it. I hit myself in the leg, turned white, and almost passed out. And then Jay thought it would be a good idea to arc it out on his nipple ring.
And somebody took a photo. There's a photo
of it mid-arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It was impressive.
What did it do to him?
Jay's a pretty tough guy. He took it like a champ.
Yeah, that's true. He's pretty. And again, Crazy Jay. He had a reputation.
You don't get that nickname not being a little bit crazy.
No. I mean, the stories. I mean, they're probably entirely too much to go into. But is there one particular one that really stands out from, like, the early heyday of fucking Darkside when you first? Okay, actually, what we should do before we do that, what the fuck made you leave South Windsor to come down to Easton?
Okay.
Like, so is Darkside at this point? It's pretty much
just beginning,
and it's just Sean. And I think he said
Adrian Stock.
Yeah, Adrian,
Sean,
and then Eric was
Pearson.
Yeah.
Yep. Was there another person? No, I think that was it. I just wasn't happy at Body Graphics. Tom was really hard to work under. He didn't tattoo, and he really pushed you to just work. I didn't really get along with Tim.
Brewer.
No. Tim Sullivan.
Sorry.
No, Tim Brewer's great. I love Tim Brewer. I always get along with him. I was butting heads with Tim Sullivan a lot. He was a diabetic, and when his sugars were off, he was off.
Wow.
I was tattooing one day, and as I was turning to dip and get ink, a fully loaded machine came flying across my face and into the wall next to me because he couldn't get it to run right. So a lot of stuff like that would happen. He didn't like my choice in music sometimes, so he would go off on me for an entire weekend and just make me feel like a piece of shit.
Now, how many people are working in the shop at this time?
At that point, it was me, Tim Brewer, Gypsy Putnam.
Oh, Gypsy, yeah. She just retired a couple of years ago, I believe.
Yeah. Tim Sullivan. And I think that Travis Pratt was another kid that was working there for a while. But yeah, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take button heads with those guys all the time. So I had been tattooing Eric, and Eric, I guess, told Sean that he should try and get me to come work down there. So Sean and Eric came up one day to hang out, and shortly after that, I went to Florida for a couple weeks in the winter because, back in the day, winters were notoriously slow, so yeah, exactly. I used to go down to Fort Lauderdale and hang out with some friends of mine down there and tattoo for like a month or two and then come back up here. So I went down to Florida and I told Brett, who was working the front, that I wasn't coming back. And then I just went down to Darkside and started working down there.
Oh shit! How'd that go over with the show with the shop owner? Like, was he?
Tim didn't. Well, I think
just motherfucked you and let you go.
He didn't even, no, he didn't motherfuck me or anything. He was actually pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pretty understanding. I never spoke to Tim about it, but I had spoken to Tom about it afterwards, and Tom was fine.
Nice.
Him and Tim parted ways too because they weren't getting along either.
Right. It seemed like the shop was kind of inflammatory when it came to personalities and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Big
Oh, definitely. And it was a small. It wasn't a big shop at all.
It's not like the shop it is now.
No, we had 4 guys working in an area that's maybe a third of the size of your room.
This is a day and age. Like even Lotus, I think Lotus was maybe 900 square feet. The shop I started in, Cliff's Tattoo, was maybe 900 square feet. It was tiny.
Oh yeah,
and it was
small little corral rooms.
Yeah, I think the room that we worked in was maybe 2/3 of the size of this, maybe. And there was 5 guys in that room. 5 guys in that room, and it was fucking super fucking tight.
It's tough, man, especially if everybody's got a big personality too. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that was the same thing. Everybody shared the radio. It was one big open corral, like.
Yep.
And it was fun, when it was on, it was fucking on. When it was like the shop I started in, because I had a big mouth. Well, I had a big mouth, and I would make a shitty comment, but as a joke.
Yep.
And certain people took it. Because, I mean, that's the way you treat each other. You just fuck with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cliff, the owner, didn't ever want anything to do with that. So the second he looked like he was the ass end of a joke, you were made to know. You were dragged outside. He'd yell at you for 20 minutes, and then you have to go back in and tail talk. But it was also one of those situations where it's like, I didn't really give a fuck. I was just like, dude, whatever. Like, I don't give a shit. And a year later, I was out. So it didn't matter.
No. Yeah.
So what was the change like going to Darkside? I mean, Darkside seemed like it was...
It was tough at the beginning because the first shop was tiny.
Yeah, it was right down Fair and Half.
Yeah, right down the road. Bad neighborhood. Only 2 stations to work out of, and there was 3 of us tattooing, so we had to rotate. And it wasn't always super busy. Again, being a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
There was a lot of days where I'd get bored and just fucking take off, go hang out with a bunch of friends back home in New Britain, get fucked up.
Maybe make your way back to work the next day.
Maybe. Yeah, Sean actually had to pull me aside one day and he's like, look, I know it's a little slow, but he's like, the one guaranteed way you cannot make money is to not be here. So he's like, you got to start being here more. And he was right.
It's true. It's funny because it seemed like Sean didn't have any tattoo experience except the want to learn how to do it. You know what I mean? And, but he says he had a lot of business experience, and it looks like it paid off because, I mean, he was able to make the move from that tiny little place and at a time when it was slow, and then build up to another space that's probably twice the size of what the original space was.
Oh, God, way bigger. I'd say probably 3 or 4 times as big.
Yeah. Well, this is before he built the second side, the second section.
Yeah, I would say even the first side was still probably 3 times bigger than the original shop.
Yeah. Okay.
The original one was, it was small.
Yeah. Like I said, I drive by it every now and again, and it's like, it blows my fucking mind that that's where the shop used to be. And again, the neighborhood's gone up and down, and it seems like it's back on the downward slope. I might be mistaken, but a lot of the businesses that are moving in there is not helping the neighborhood much,
No. No, there's certain neighborhoods that just, they have a hard time getting out of it.
So now let me ask you a question. You go to Darkside, everybody seems to get along really well. The one thing
we got along, everybody got along great.
And it seemed like there was everybody was just feeding off of one another. So,
absolutely. Again, big open corral room.
Yeah.
Everybody's always looking over the other guy's shoulder. Friendly. It was very competitive, but very friendly and very encouraging to each other.
I will admit there was a bit of competitiveness. With Darkside because, and again, like you said, I think it was friendly because nobody wanted it to get out of hand. But I felt you could feel the edge some days.
Oh, sure.
If somebody did one thing, somebody else is trying to outdo it. It was almost like a little contest every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it was always... And you guys had a regular batch of fucking clients that were in there all the fucking time.
Yeah, that place was super busy.
Yeah, it was incredible. So, I mean, how much of your business was built up there? Because now you're no longer... You commuting back and forth from...
I was living in New Britain at that time. So, yeah, I'm driving back and forth from New Britain. And
which is, it's a good
45 minutes from where I was at. And then I moved down to East Haven, ultimately. I don't remember exactly the timeline of when I moved down there, but I think I was going back and forth from New Britain for like maybe 2 years.
Right.
3 years. Maybe 2 years.
And immediately you felt comfortable at fucking Darkside? Like,
yeah.
Considering the fact that you didn't really know anybody. Like, how did you meet? Now, you met Eric through just him coming up to get tattooed by you?
No, Eric actually was working for one of the bands I was playing in at the time.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, a band called Quest of the Moonbreed, which was...
Quest of the Moonbreed.
Yeah, it was a fucking mess, man. Total mess. The music was terrible, but the stage show was pretty cool. And they got around. We always got put on a bunch of different bills.
So Brett, what was the band that Brett was in? Was it Frogman?
Frog Boy.
Frog Boy.
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with that.
I worked for Brett's band.
You worked for Brett's band?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like their number one roadie for years.
The music scene here, like again, when I came up, my first day apprenticing, I'm working with Civ.
Yep.
No idea who the fuck he is. I'm not in New York hardcore. I grew up on Long Island listening to fucking, WBAB, fucking Boston, bands like Boston, Foreigner, fucking Led Zeppelin every fucking 2 minutes. I grew up with like 70s rock and roll. You know what I mean? I was not into the hardcore scene whatsoever. Closest I came to that was like metal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Maiden, fucking Quiet Riot, shit like that.
Yeah, and metal and hardcore have a pretty close crossover.
Yeah. Well, so after the first year of me working with Civ, they decided to open up Lotus. I go with them. That's when he gets back into the band and he starts to do this solo thing with Walter from Gorilla Biscuits. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "You're in a band?" And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm in a band, like a hardcore band." I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, they were pretty fucking well
exactly. And that's the crazy thing. Like, I had no idea. I didn't know he was in a band until I'd been working with him for literally a year. Wow. And I'm like, "You're fucking kidding me, right?" And he's like, "No."
Wow,
and
that's crazy.
Well, because at that time I didn't really. And again, I've never been enamored by that. By like getting to know. I never wanted to meet the people I admire musically or artistically because it's always that big letdown. You know what I mean? God forbid you're an asshole. Well, I got to go home and throw out all the fucking the cassettes I have. You know what I mean? Like, So it was one of those things. Like, I never wanted to learn who those people were. And then with that,
most of the time you're better off with that.
Well, most certainly, yeah. Because I've had a couple of instances where I've met people because of Civ or because of the shop I worked in, and those guys were always in and out. And most of the people were really cool. But every now and again, you meet somebody that's like, fuck that guy. Mm-hmm. And it does affect your feelings about the band. Which
absolutely,
blows, it definitely blows. But the whole point being was, so you meet him through there. He decides to start getting tattooed by you through the band thing. Yep. He decides to start getting tattooed by you. Eventually, you all end up at Darkside. And again, this isn't like fucking Eric came up fucking fast.
It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody knew he could even draw. He was piercing. Eric has a great personality. People flocked to him. He just was an easy person to be around. Everybody loved him. Still love him.
Yeah.
But one day he just starts drawing. He's like, I think I want to learn how to tattoo. And Sean was like, oh, all right. Sean started showing him. He picked it up instantly.
That was the thing that blew my mind because when he came to get tattooed by me, had only been tattooed maybe 6 months. I'll find out.
It wasn't a long time, yeah.
No, it hadn't been a long time. And I remember being like, damn, what the fuck, dude?
I was blown away.
I credit a lot of it. First of all, you can't take anything away from him personally because fuck. Like, he's to this day, he's like that. He's just...
Oh, when he puts his mind to something?
Exactly.
Game on.
Exactly.
100%.
But I honestly think, like I've said this to Sean, I've said this to Eric back in the day, and I'm going to say it to you now. To me, Darkside at that time, probably a few years after that, like I'd say probably just before I got there, you guys are the ones that I think put tattooing on the map for Connecticut, for the state itself. Because when you guys blew up, it happened fucking fast. Yep. And it wasn't like you go through a shop article with, say, 4 tattooers, and you got 2 good ones and 2 bad ones. You're going through a shop article with, like, I think it was 6 tattooers at that time. Yeah. And everybody kicked ass. And you're like, what the absolute fuck?
Yeah, and we were able to cover, like, pretty much everything.
Yeah, you had you had black and gray, tribal, fucking, you had a bunch of fucking mad color, fucking new school
new
shit.
School stuff was
you had
huge.
You had a bunch of religious shit. Like, everybody did everything really, really, really well. And the things that they stood out in, they really fucking stood out.
Yeah, the stars aligned for that. That's just a freak happenstance.
And the funny thing is, it's like when you sit there and you look at it from that, like when you look at it from that perspective, like this is unplanned. This isn't somebody trying to create something. Because in all honesty, I think that was one of the problems that I had seen towards the end of what I remember from Dark Side, was the fact that you had a bunch of guys who didn't realize how fucking good you had it.
I know.
You know what I mean? And again, I'm
the most frustrating thing for me.
Not doing that to put anybody down. I don't mean that to sound bad, but it's the truth.
It is the truth.
Because it seemed like not everybody was really trying to save the ship. The writing's on the fucking wall. Shit's going down. And I remember I had a couple of conversations like towards the end with Sean. And I said the last conversation I had with him was earlier in the day when I said, this either stops now or I'm out. And then later on that evening, I find out a bunch of worse shit. And I'm like, cool, I'm out. I went in, packed my shit, left. Didn't even say anything.
Yep.
And it was one of those things like, I don't think anybody was just like, I think everybody's mad. And and didn't realize like nobody I don't think anybody realized what exactly Dark Side had and what it was,
Well,
like how did that make you feel seeing?
Had
you been at Dark Side at that point? It had to be from like 90. Was it 95?
I was there from like 95 till right around 2000.
No, it was after 2000 because I came up here in 2002. We opened Hope the beginning of 2003. Transcend doesn't open until almost a year. You guys stuck it out there after we had left.
You're better with time history.
Only because I know the dates.
I'm terrible with numbers and
But that's what I'm saying. That's a really long time. It's
so that was there.
8 years. Yeah, it's 8 years. I mean, that's a long time. But I think a lot of it is complacency, and it's not just complacency in the individuals. I think it's complacency as tattooers, because everybody's got a fucking routine. Tattooers probably more so than any have a routine. I mean, to this day. I mean, I still take the same drive to work. I go out of my way to take a long drive around because I don't want to be here in 2 minutes. I could be here I just want 15 minutes to clear my head from leaving my house to getting to the shop. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But with all that happening, I would imagine the complacency of being at the shop, and I think there's a bit of ego of just being like, no, this is fucking. I'm here. I'm not gonna fucking bounce. Like, what was going through your head when you see all this shit happen? Like when we left,
I really thought there was a chance that it was going to turn back around, and I did realize what we had. I was so proud to be part of it. I loved it. Going to work every day was like, oh God, it was just the best feeling. But then, yeah, like you said, we stuck around a little bit longer, and just eventually it got to the point where we're like, oh, this is not going to change. We have to make a change because this situation is not going to. We had to start something new.
Yeah. Now, did you feel like you were leaving something you helped build behind?
Oh, 100%.
It's funny. I never had that conversation with Eric when we opened Hope. And I'll ask him, but it's one of those things I never thought to ask because it was such a fucking whirlwind and such a pain in the dick, in all honesty, because the last thing I wanted to do was move to Connecticut and open up a shop. And it's funny. So to go back about a year from when we left, before we left, I was living in New Hampshire at the time, and I was working with Corey Kruger. That went belly up. Tried to stick it out up there, and I was going back and forth from New Hampshire to Long Island to visit my mom. And Dark Side was literally 2.5 hours from Long Island, from New Hampshire where I lived, and about 2.5 hours from Long Island. So I'd always stop to see friends, use the bathroom, whatever. So Dark Side became the stop-off point for us. I remember saying, we're not sure what we want to do. My mom's got cancer, and I don't want to leave the East Coast right now, and my wife doesn't want to go back to New York. And you literally like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to stay in this area. I want to stay in New England area. And you looked at me and you went, Connecticut, dude. Just come here. And I'm like, what? And he's like, just come to Connecticut. You were like literally in the middle of everything. And I was like, huh. And I remember telling that to my wife, and I think it kicks her in the ass now because she fucking hates Connecticut.
Connecticut's a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. I mean, it's one of those things where it's tough. It's really fucking tough, especially owning a business in New Haven. But yeah, you were the one that kind of cinched us moving to Connecticut and then taking the job eventually at Dark Side and stuff, you know?
Oh, right on.
Yeah, well, I should curse you for that, but whatever.
You're welcome.
So when you guys up and leave Dark Side, it was you, Kevin.
God, me, Kevin, George.
Nick Baxter. Was Trammell part of the scene? Because Trammell was there when I was there. Yeah.
Trammell. Johnny Barrios was going to come with us. He ended up going to Florida. Ant Plaza.
Oh, Plaza, yeah. And again, you guys took the working part of Darkside and where the names were, because at that point, so Darkside spawns Eric Merrill, and then a couple of years after that, you had Albie Rock, which was kind of like a...
Well, we fired him from Darkside.
I understand that. And that was my point going to be, like, I don't know if it was talent or mouth that made the name. Yeah, I don't want to be the one to say that. You worked with him, I did not. But yeah, I mean, so he's kind of made a big name for himself in a short period of time. And then Baxter comes up.
Oh, Christ, Baxter, yeah. He blew right the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. I mean...
Also super talented kid.
But I think what really helped, and again, I can't speak for him, obviously, but from an outsider's perspective, it was just being surrounded by competent and really technical tattooers. Like, that's the difference between coming up as a tattooer today versus coming up as a tattooer in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, is because you had to know how to fucking tattoo. You had to know how to fix a machine. You had to know what...
You had to know everything.
Yeah, when you're fucking bent needles, hook needles, whatever, any number of fucking things. So from that perspective, you really had to know a lot about the technical aspect of tattooing. And I think that's one of the big things with Darkside, is the fact that there was nothing but a technical backbone on everybody, considering the guy who started it knew nothing about tattooing. Literally grabbed the machine and started working and managed to get as far as he had, you know?
Yep. Well, I mean, again, guys like me and Eric, we were hungry for all the knowledge that came with it.
Right.
You know? What Sean didn't know, we could help make up. What we didn't know in running a business or anything else, Sean could make up.
Right.
And on that point, Sean was one of the people that back in the day he used to impress the shit out of us too, because he decided to do something kind of like Eric does. Right. Just figures it out like it's nothing.
Right.
Like, I went to the back, we came into work one day and Sean's cutting a roof in the fucking hole of his car, and we're like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm putting a sunroof in. We're like, you ever do it before? He's like, no. That thing never leaked. It was perfect.
He's like, how hard can it be?
Exactly. He taught himself how to program computers.
Right. He went into that in detail. He was basically, there were always techie people in his house, and he basically just ran with it. And again, hooking up with someone like Gabe, who knew everything about the computers, it's like just taking that little bit of knowledge and then having it turn into, like, you know, from a seed to a plant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's kind of like the feel you get from Darkside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I asked him what he felt after he lost everything, and now he's built it back up for the most part, but not with the... Now it's harder. I don't think...
Oh, yeah. No, it's a lot harder.
I shouldn't say I don't think it happens anymore, but to have that kind of a powerhouse...
Oh, it's super rare nowadays.
Just sparked the fucking life. You know, I don't know if that's something you could really pull off nowadays.
I don't think so.
You know, I think there's too many egos, too many individuals.
Yep.
You know, maybe not egos, but way too many individuals in comparison to what it used to be like back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but how much does it burn your ass at all, or were you
cool
when you went over to Transcend and
I was pissed off about it for a long time. It took me years to get over it.
Yeah.
Things that helped though was, like, my wife's great. I got a fucking awesome kid.
Right.
And the other guys that I was working with over there, we helped push each other and continue trying to get better at tattooing. So it was a good environment over there for a long time too, until it wasn't. And
again, so let me ask you a question. Like, how much do you feel like, is it egos, is it individuality, or is it just the fucking nightmare of being a tattooer? And the baggage that comes with, because that's
why things kind
of yeah.
I think in both shops.
I mean, Darkside, it's safe to say it was a little bit of ego, but it was a lot of baggage.
A little bit of ego, a lot of baggage. I guess feeling indestructible. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what I do, it's always going to be there.
That's kind of what I was saying about taking things for granted. Because I had that conversation with Joey Apartments in the back of Darkside when you guys were posing in front of the car that you destroyed. And I'm like, you guys are the best shop in New England. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You're not a bunch of kids,
Oh,
man.
my God. Well, You know,
There was a shop.
We just like
there was
to
a
fuck
shop
around and
that
do
they
fucked up
literally.
shit.
There was a car in the back of the shop that they just destroyed, and it just sat back there for a while. It was back there.
2 cars, actually.
It was 2 cars.
Well, one of them was Jimmy Dillon's old car, which I'm pretty sure Crazy J jumped off the roof of the building and onto the hood and caved that in. And then one day we came in the back, and Sean had somehow got his car parked on top of the dumpster. Don't know how he got it up there. I don't even remember how we got it down. I think that's the car that you were talking about. We were destroying.
Yeah. Because I was passing through at that point.
Yeah.
I was passing through. But I remember being like, you guys got to start representing, like, you know.
Yeah, we were young too, though. I mean, don't forget, we were super young.
No, I get it. And I've always been a bit more of a grandma than I probably should be. But
yeah.
It was one of those things like, it did. Because I look at it from the perspective of, this could all go away like that.
Yep.
And that was my...
Oh, well, that thought never entered our heads back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Until it did go away.
Well, that's why I said, when it happened, when I saw the writing on the wall, I'm like, yeah, there's no good way for this to end. There's no good way for this to end. Which is a shame, because you would think like an intervention or some other bullshit.
We tried that.
You did, yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, it's a shame. It really is. You know?
It is.
But again, I think, having said that, everybody went on to do other things. So So Transcend, you took a job with Transcend. You helped get it off the fucking ground. It's not for nothing. If Kevin had done that on his own and didn't have Nick, Plaza. I mean,
we definitely helped launch it.
You took the rest of the heart of...
Well, we physically helped build it too. You know, like doing the construction on the inside. I cashed in a couple favors from some customers to do the finish work towards the end when it was getting time to open. We had to have stuff done. So yeah, I put a lot of myself into that place too. And unfortunately, that just didn't work out in the end either.
But you were there for quite a few years, weren't you?
Yeah. Up until 2011.
So let me ask you a question. How much of it was just going in, and I don't mean punching a clock in the sense of you're tattooing, punching a clock in the sense of where you're tattooing. Like, it gets to a point where you I don't want to say you stop caring about where you're working, but it becomes your room in this business, in this building. And how much of that changed your thought pattern on how you approached working in a shop? You went from Dark Side, which was a big corral, to Dark Side, to Transcend, which is separate rooms.
No, I never thought about it, but now that you mention it, I would say for the first few years that we were open at Transcend, it still had that kind of team mentality.
Camaraderie.
But because it was such a big place and everybody had their own rooms, slowly over the years, it did become a bunch of individuals working just under the same roof.
So I can say that with this here. Like, to me, I wanted to do the big open space. Everybody else
I miss the big open space, to be honest with you.
everybody else was like, no, we need separate rooms. So we do separate rooms. And in all honesty, I think it causes separation without trying, unless you physically go to somebody else, which is why I still, to this day, I go to almost everybody's room. And I sit, I watch. It's not like I have to see what they're doing.
Yep.
I want to know what they're doing. And it's just because everybody tattoos differently.
Yeah.
Or there's something...
I still do the same thing in our shop. I check in with everybody every day.
Yeah.
If somebody's tattooing and I'm not tattooing, I'm going to pop in their room, say hi to the customer, shoot the shit, break balls a little bit. You know.
The thing that's nice about this is we do have like when you're having lunch or whatever, there's the big open front room. And that's pretty much where anything is going to happen as far as camaraderie. It's going to be in the front room.
Yep.
But that's something has always been on my mind. Because when we moved here, I wanted to do, again, big open room. And they were like, absolutely not. Like, nobody wanted anything to do with it. But in my opinion, I think that's what sets the standard. Not sets the standard, but creates a separation amongst individuals. And I don't think anybody looks at it as being like detrimental until it is. Yeah. And that's the reason why I say it. Because with Dark Side, it did start when Sean built the second half, and then you had Plaza, myself, Eric, and Julio on that side. Mm-hmm. And it was technically 4 separate rooms. I mean, we had big windows in between, but it's still 4 separate rooms. Yep. So, and then on top of that, it's separate from the original shop. Again, just a doorway, but that doorway means a lot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it is something that I often think about, because the shops that seem to do the best are those old school fucking just big open room shops that just, and it's funny because it's something I curse today, because I go to California and I see this beautiful open space, and all I think is, you cheap motherfuckers. You didn't even put up a wall. You didn't even put a knee wall up to separate. You put a fucking rope. You cheap. That's me being petty.
Rope is a little cheap.
It is cheap as fuck, dude. Yeah. Put a fucking wall up. Would it kill you? You know, whatever. But that's a legitimate thing. It drives me crazy because I see really cool shops with great people working them, and literally no thought goes into the actual building of the shop except, oh, what's going on the walls? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's true.
But again, I honestly think it helps the mental state of the individuals working there because
totally agree.
You're almost forced, and this is what I think with clients as well. Again, it would be much harder to pull off now, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. With clients of today, young clients of today, not like your regular clients, but young clients of today, everybody is so insulated with their phones.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where when they come in, instead of asking you to draw something, they show you the fucking picture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they sit in your chair, they may not be inclined to talk to you. They may be more inclined to put on headphones. I know of a shit ton of tattooers that all wear fucking headphones while they're tattooing, which turns my fucking stomach.
That pisses me the fuck off too. I think it's rude. It's rude to the customer.
But I think it's a sign of the times of where we're living now.
But conversely to that, if a customer wants to put their head, if it's going to help them sit still,
totally understandable, yeah,
and make a better tattoo experience for them, sure, no problem. But I could never slap headphones on and tune out everything around me, including the person I'm working with.
Because you need to have that focus. It makes no fucking sense to me personally, because if you're a professional and you're that good at what you do, I get it. Sometimes you get a chatty motherfucker in your chair, and the last thing you want to do in the middle of fucking lining something very detailed is talk to this cocksucker.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you should say, hey man, give me like an hour to get through this, and then we will talk all you fucking want. But I need a little bit more conversation. We'll talk every now and again. I'll drop whatever, but I need a little bit more to talk about on this.
Well, to that point too, starting off in like that corral type room and environment with all the energy and the buzz going on and everybody talking a lot of it, to me that helped make it easier to focus when there's a lot of shit going on.
Right.
You know, I was conditioned to it. Whereas a lot of people now, if you're starting off in a private room or at your house by yourself and you can control the environment around you completely, I could see where you would end up wanting to have it be, you're going to put yourself in your cocoon and focus. I just still think it's pretty rude to the customer.
Well, so what I was saying about younger clients coming through the door now, how many of those people you think are going to survive in an environment like a big open space like that, where I think it's personally, I think it's healthy. I think it opens people's horizons. It opens their eyes to a lot of different ways of people thinking.
Yep.
I think it takes the edge off of you as a tattooer to really coddle the individual 110%, where now you've got maybe say 3 other artists in the room, 3 other clients in the room, and now all of a sudden it becomes this open forum where people can start, oh, somebody overheard somebody he owns an old Chevelle. Oh, my dad used to own an old Chevelle. And it creates a conversation that you as a tattooer no longer have to you don't have to guide anymore, because now there's more people involved in it, and I think it just makes for a more comfortable situation.
I do too. Our Middletown shop too, we have a couple private rooms, but we did a corral area for part of it, and I think it's great. And I think younger people, if they don't know any different, I think it's just beneficial all the way around, unless they're getting a private tattoo and they need,
No, that's understandable. Yeah.
You're gonna have their tits out or something like that. Yeah, you want to be in a private room. But if you're not, and you don't know any different, I think it's better for the customers, and I think they would probably enjoy it better for the most part because of the distractions, because of the interactions between different artists. Yeah. I think it's a better environment.
Yeah, that's kind of why I built this room, is because we were getting enough guest artists in that being in a room right on top of one another, they're a little bit more turned off, but this is now big enough. But again, a lot of times you get people that are just like, my guy will hear him talking about his guy, and then all of a sudden it's like they're talking back and forth. And again, with this room, I don't have TVs. I'm not a big fan of just putting a TV on and just letting people fucking veg.
Yep.
I want them to look at the stuff on the walls. I want them to ask me about this painting from Rodney, or this painting from Amber Carr, or that painting from fucking, Uncle Allen. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to tell them why I got that painting, who that person is. Mm-hmm. And that creates its own fucking conversation in itself.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's why when you said before, when you came in here, you're like, dude, you got a lot of shit. And
you
I'm
do
like,
got a lot of shit.
But it is one of those things where it's a lifetime of collection. I mean, shit, I threw stuff out. When I left Darkside to go to fucking downtown New Haven, I threw stuff out. When we left downtown New Haven to come to this place, I threw stuff out. When I left the other room to come into this room, I threw stuff out. So this is like, I can't do the amount of shit that I owned is fucking stupid. Yeah. Like, if I wanted to leave here, one of the things that would keep me from not wanting to leave here is the amount of shit I own.
I was thinking that before. If you ever have to move, it's going to take forever.
It's a fucking nightmare, dude. Just the 2 paintings I got from Travis Franklin, which were like fucking 4 foot by 6 foot.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I don't live in a mansion, dude. Like I got a small little cottage. Like where the fuck am I going to put those 2 paintings?
Oh, yeah,
they are absolutely gorgeous, but fuck. You know, so it is a frightening thing. But to me, it's not about collecting stuff. It's more about like having stuff to look at, as if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Oh no, it is a great room to get tattooed in because there's so much different shit to distract you and focus on. It's great. Sorry, I keep shifting my ass hurts.
Yeah, sorry about these chairs are not very comfortable.
Well, and after 30-something years tattooing, the ass gets a little sore.
Yeah, exactly.
Sitting all day.
Exactly. So when did you? So you fuck off on Transcend? Did you leave on good terms, bad terms? Was it just kind of
no,
like
we left on good terms. Yeah, but I noticed similar things happening, and just a lack of involvement from ownership.
Yeah.
Other things, people partaking in other things that I didn't want anything to do with. Jeff felt the same way. Mm-hmm. And luckily, Jeff and I just get along fantastic. We don't argue. We agree on almost everything. We have the same outlook on tattooing and what we want to be able to do. So it was just it was a good natural evolution for the both of us to open up a shop together.
To move on.
Yeah, to move on and to not have to deal with any bullshit. And I mean, to be honest with you, neither one of us wanted to open a shop. Because like you said, it's a lot easier to just go in, do your job, not have to worry about the bills, not have to worry about anything else.
It's not even so much, it's not only that. My issue is the amount of shops that are out there. I'm not from Connecticut. I'm not married to any one area. Like, we tried to get into North Haven when we get out of downtown. And North Haven is like, oh, you're not allowed, we don't allow that here. I'm like, well, if I had a fucking lawyer and sued the fucking balls off this fucking city, I'd be allowed. But the thing was, I'm like, yeah, but you're not from North Haven, so who fucking cares? Right.
Well, and the alternative too is to go to all the town meetings and eventually try and help overturn the law, which is what Jeff did for Middletown.
Yeah,
because you weren't allowed to have a tattoo shop in Middletown.
I tried, which was cool because you're like a couple of blocks off of downtown, right?
Yeah, no, we're not in downtown because downtown was not
They don't
zoned.
allow it. Yeah, they don't allow
it. But that's changing now too because I believe there is a girl who was on Ink Master. I can't remember her name, but she's opening up. I
just heard about this. Yeah, she's trying to open up in downtown.
Oh, she's going to. Yeah.
You think so?
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty positive that's going to happen.
Fucking Ink Masters.
But she apparently is really nice. Jeff's talked to her already, so we're getting along with her great, and hopefully we can cross promote, work together.
Dude, it's like like anywhere in the world. Tattooers everybody likes to think they're an island. You know what I mean? Like we've done, when we first opened Hope, we opened the doors. Whenever we did art shows, we try to get everybody local involved. I remember a few years go by and I decide, you know what? We're going to do an art show not involving locals. We're going to bring in people from all over the fucking world. Mm-hmm. And I put together a wonderful show. And I had more motherfuckers pissed off at the fact that we weren't asking locals to take part. And even Eric said, he goes, well, dude, you didn't ask the locals. And I'm like, I didn't ask the locals because, dude, I got Robert Hernandez from fucking Spain. Yeah. I got Philip Lou.
Monsters.
Exactly. I got fucking names. I shouldn't say names. I've got legends.
Yeah, literally.
To take part in these fucking shows. Like, how are you going to look at me being like, oh, you're not, fuck you, you're not good, you're not worthy, you're not good enough. No. I'm bringing something to New Haven that you would never get to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, that sounds really fucking egotistical, but it's the truth.
It's true.
Yeah. So it was one of those situations. It was a rude awakening because a lot of people boycotted coming to the show. They stopped doing any shows they were invited to come back to. So it was one of those things. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, we'll just keep doing cool shows, Yeah. And if you show up, you show up, But now
I can't make everybody happy all the time.
No, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. But even that, like, how often you take part in shows? Because I mean, when you do something for a show, you really. We did the one show, the toy show here, many years ago.
Yeah.
And you collected chicken bones.
Yeah.
And you made that tank like that.
No, it's a big spider.
Yeah, the big spider.
Yeah, cat skull, turkey bones, chicken bones, all that kind of crap.
It's still in your shop. I remember going to your shop
still
a couple
got
weeks ago. It was there. How often are you taking part in art shows? Because you've only ever been involved
almost
in one
never,
or two. Yeah.
To be honest with you. Only because I spend so much time at the shop and tattooing. I have to take a break from it. And when I'm not at the shop, this is going to sound fucked up, but I don't even want to think about it. You know what I mean? I have to have that balance of I'm on when I'm at work and I'm off when I'm at home. Because there's other things I want to do too. You know, I got family and stuff too. Right. Plus, just need a break sometimes.
You want the time to
Yeah. And art stuff that I do aside from tattooing, if it's not music related, like for a friend's band or something like that, the only other stuff I really do is like corporate kind of crap, logos and whatnot.
So you're dealing with like people coming to you because I just opened up a whatever business. Can you come up with a logo for me?
The last one I did was Greater Good. They're a beer company out of Worcester.
Oh, nice.
They do all imperial brews. And I did a bunch of artwork for them when they first started off. I guess the biggest reason though why I don't like paint or do anything like that, if you give me a blank canvas and say do something, I don't know what the fuck to do.
I think it's...
I don't, like, you could do anything. How do you pick one thing out of infinitum?
Well, let me ask you a question. A client comes into you and say, hey man, I got my sleeve. Mm-hmm. I love what the other stuff you did on me. Just do whatever you want. What are you going to do?
That would heavily depend on what they have around it.
Because I don't want it.
Well, if it's a blank arm, I'd still want to see what's on the other arm. You know, because I want to do it to something that's going to at least work with what they have as a collection.
Okay.
But if I could do, you know, if somebody says come to me and do anything, it really would depend on my mood too, because there's so many different things I like doing.
Right, exactly.
I mean, all things black and gray, of course. I love a lot of nature stuff, animal stuff. But I also like a lot of Japanese stuff, especially the background elements of it, things that flow and move. Polynesian inspired tribal pieces. I love doing that stuff too. There's just too many things to pick one.
So let me ask you a question. Like when you bring up Japanese, you bring up Polynesian, you bring up all these other traditional styles of tattooing. You've never been like everybody else. Like, you're similar to me in that sense where you're not doing a Japanese piece to look like a traditional Japanese piece.
No.
So when you're doing something, because I think the 100 Demons album you did was literally, it was like a Japanese demon or something like that, wasn't it? And there was, it definitely had Japanese overtones, but it's not uber trad at all.
No, definitely not. No, because I'm not going to try and copy someone else's stuff verbatim, and so that I could be like, oh yeah, I could draw like Horiyoshi. I love the designs that they do, and I like doing something that looks close enough,
right?
That I can play around with, have fun with. But it's not like I am setting out to make it look like someone else's work intentionally.
Right, exactly.
If it does, it's most likely an accident.
Okay.
Because and again, there's too many cool things visually out there to narrow my focus on one.
Right, exactly.
I couldn't do it.
And you want to keep things. That's how I've always looked at it. Like, and I will admit, I take a beating for it because the crowds I tend to hang around in are going to be uber traditional, either be Americana, Japanese, whatever. Mm-hmm. But to me, I'm like, well, I'm not Japanese. I'm a fucking guy from Long Island, so I'm not going to do things the way other people are doing them because I won't say it would bore me, because I think trying to be that person, trying to create something that looks like it belongs in a particular box is difficult. It's very, very difficult, especially if you're following the fucking rules. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you know that, dragons should be going this direction, fish this way, fucking flowers belong in this and not in that, So it's like, from that perspective, I don't think I've ever had, I have a love for knowing, I just don't have a love for following the rules, and doing what everybody else does.
Same thing.
But again, I think that there's something to be said for doing it right, and there's something to be said for doing it not right.
Yeah, just different.
Exactly.
Yeah, It doesn't make it wrong, but it's just different.
Nice. So as far as like gear, you still using coils, or
100%?
Now have you
coils till I die?
The coils, and now have you fucked around rotaries at all, or no?
Tried them a couple times.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like about them is they're like fucking hot rods. Yeah. It's just all go. Yeah. There's no backing off. You can move pretty quick with them. Things I don't like the silence. I don't like the size of the grips. I don't like how light they are. I like the weight of a coil. The other thing I like about a coil too is that it does have a little bit of a give and resistance to it that you can play around with to achieve different looks.
Like I said, when we were talking about that machine I was just using, that little pen machine, that's one of their cheapest machines, or was. I think it's even a discontinued machine. It was like the electric ink is constantly getting better. And I've got the brand new pen. It's fucking tremendous. But every now and again, I like picking up this one pen, and it's like it hits in a way that where with a coil machine, even if it had a bit of a hammer, you'd get that little bog down. Yep. And that bog down is what's giving you your break on the fucking on the A bar, you know? Yep. That's what this reminds me of. It's the same similar thing. It's still giving you that consistency, but the motor slows down, bogs down enough that it almost gives you the feel of a coil. You know, a much more consistent coil, not like it's not like something that's going to back right off. You know?
And see, that's the big difference, I think, overall with coils and rotaries is rotaries are very consistent. Coils can be inconsistent, but once you get a coil tuned the way you like it and you know how to match your hand speed and everything, I just love it.
Well, I think it's one of those things, once you get used to using it, like how important do you think it is for someone who comes into this industry as an apprentice to start with coils? And this is the shame, because the majority of the people apprenticing people have probably never even used a coil. You know what I mean? Or if they did, it was in the wee hours of their fucking apprenticeship, you know? But how important do you think it is to know that difference between, you know, a coil machine and a rotary machine? Like the fact is, there is a humongous difference. And anybody who tells you that a rotary is better is bullshit, because a rotary can be more consistent, but it's fucking far from better. You know what I mean?
And if you don't know what you're doing with it, that consistency can lead to a lot of skin damage.
Yeah, it can fuck you all.
You know, if you don't know what you're doing. Personally, I think, and I'm sure people would give me shit for this, and I really don't give a fuck. I think everybody that's tattooing should know how to break down, rebuild, set up a coil machine. I think that everybody should know how to make needles. Sterilization techniques, all the traditional stuff that we were taught.
See how fucked up. So that's actually a good point. Something that never really occurred to me is the fact that anybody using cartridges now and pens, because for the longest time I wouldn't use a pen.
Yep.
And I'm putting it out there because it is kind of gross, because you're not pulling that front of that pen off and sterilizing it.
No, you
know
can't.
what I mean, you're going to use a wet sterilization. You're going to use wipes, which is, by the way, totally cool. I mean, you clean everything else in your station with it, so why wouldn't you do it with that? But the fact of the matter is, it's like, yeah, they know, you know, with the exception of like the bloodborne pathogen stuff, a lot of them don't even know why you're doing that. Why an autoclave needs to reach a certain temperature and a certain pressure in order to do what it does. You know, so that's actually a really good point. The fact that that's something that's completely lost on the trade right now.
It's in danger of becoming totally lost.
Yeah, we got rid of our sterilization room, our dirty room, because we only had one artist using steel still, and I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, dude, like it's kind of become like an eyesore of the shop, where I don't want it in the shop anymore. I don't want people mistakenly coming back here thinking it's the bathroom, whatever. So we got rid of it, you know. Well,
let's be honest. Fucking cleaning tubes is fucking gross and
it sucks. It
laborious and sucks. It's a pain in the ass.
But the difference between using disposables with coils, that's tough. That's really, really, really tough. Know what I did find recently, and I've been using it with my transverse machines, which are they're basically like, it looks like a traditional machine, uses needles on the bar and stuff. But I just found these metal grips, like they're just a grip, that 2-part grip that you can slide just a plastic tube in, tighten the grip down, wrap it up, and then use that, and it gives you the same weight that you would get with a steel tube. And it's a pretty rigid plastic tube. It's not like a vinyl tube. It's like a rigid plastic. So if it bends, it's breaking. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, man, it's fucking nice. It's a bit of the weight it gives you. Because those transverse machines, they either make a micro, a nano, which is tiny, small, really, really light, or they make another one called the tank, which is probably like a really light coil machine. Yeah. And the distribution of weight between the front and the back is really fucking nice. Really, really, really nice. I'll show you before you go.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'll tell you what, man, it's changed the way I'm lining stuff now, because I love using those fucking things. You know, and that's with using a fairly lightweight machine. Yep. If you're using a heavy machine, I can imagine Like I've been wanting to fuck around.
That's the one thing. My lining machines that I use they're pretty lightweight.
Yeah.
One's a board machine that I got probably 2011.
Okay. See, that's the joy of fucking coils. Like I've got machines that date back to 90. Before 90. Like, but the oldest machine I have is probably the first year I started tattooing. You know, because I did get rid of a bunch of machines, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I got a couple of I have a Paul Jeffries.
Awesome.
I have a Jonesy, an original Jonesy. I have that Percy water frame. You know what I mean? So those are machines I'm never going to get rid of, obviously. Because there's no reason to.
Yep.
But having old Aaron Kane machines and fucking bunch of Safari machines, you know?
Yep.
Mickey B's, Mickey Sharps, you know? I mean, these are machines that are just like, they're fucking classics, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And every now and again I go, fucking pull it out, bitch. Like,
Yep.
what are you waiting for? And
Okay.
I'd have to rethink the way, or almost go back to relearning how those machines run. You know what I mean?
You could do it, Joe.
I know I can. It's the laziness in me that decides not
Fair
to.
enough.
Because it's like, I can do that, or
Yeah.
I can just grab that fucking transverse nano, which I know lines as good as any fucking coil machine I've ever used, and just rock it with that. And then, you know, again, I could use those machines for shading, but again, the idea of cartridges has become a bit easier when it comes to shading and coloring, where you can just fucking trade in, trade out, you know?
Yeah, the cartridge thing I tried, I can't do that either.
Again, dude, it's one of those things, it is a slippery slope of evil, because it's one of those things where you sit back and you go, fuck this is bullshit. And then you just set up one machine and you go, you know what I could really use in this machine? A 7 mag. And then you just go grab a fucking 7 mag.
That part's cool. That part I am a little bit jealous of.
It's hard to walk
nice.
away.
Because if I want different needles, I got to set up 3 or 4 different machines. But to be honest with you, I primarily set up usually just one machine for almost everything I do.
Right.
It's I have an H&M machine, and I've been doing almost everything with 9-round shaders. I have no more mags anymore. I haven't touched a mag in 3 years.
Dude, what are you going backward in time? Like, really?
I can go so much faster with a round than I can with a mag.
Again, comes
and I
from
get
experience.
better saturation. I get smoother. At first, they look a little peppery, but once they heal and settle in there,
the peppery is what everybody wants.
Yeah, well,
it's one of those. So here's the thing: the first time I had seen a friend of mine do that, probably late '90s, early 2000s, was this real peppery shading. You know what I mean? And on Long Island, that wasn't really something you saw. You know, and his thing was, client complained about it, and his thing was, he goes, dude, in 5 years, this is gonna be the smoothest black and gray you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to hear that. Like, and the guy tried to get me to go back into it, and I'm like, dude, I ain't touching his work. What are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's no.
Yeah.
Because on top of that, I admired the fuck out of the guy who did the tattoo, and I would believe anything that came out of his head at the time.
Yeah.
But it was one of those situations where it's like that now. I mean, I've always been I was always taught make it as smooth as possible right out of the gate.
Sure.
You know, but now you have all these kids fucking lining stuff with fucking
there's that guy.
shading.
What's his name? Mr. Choshin does everything with a 3-liner.
Yeah, does everything with a 3,
and they look beautiful. Yeah. They're great.
But we all know where it's going to end.
Why not use a 5 and do it a little bit quicker?
Yeah.
Or an 8 and do it even
faster. But I always
faster.
look at it from the standpoint of like, or use a fucking mag and just get it done.
Yep.
You know
well, dude, I fought. Jeff tried to get me to use. Jeff Mansoff tried to get me to use round shaders for the first 8 years we were open together. And I'm like, dude, I don't need those fucking things. I could do everything with a mag. Everything with a mag. I was fucking super stubborn about it. And then one day I was like, fuck it, I'm going to try this thing. I have never looked back. Like I said, I literally haven't touched a mag in about 3 years. I can go so much faster, and I find the saturation's better, especially for color.
Right.
A round shader for color now, it's one pass. There's no gaps, nothing.
Really? Okay.
Oh, I fucking love it.
Yeah, see, I think it's funny. I did recently use a 14 round, like round shader, to do just some big filler work in like little tight spots. And yeah, I think, but the way my brain thinks over the last 30 years, it's hard to not corner, like to not be able to corner.
That took a little bit of figuring out.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a big thing. When you've got that mag, I mean, you could do anything with a mag. That was always my intention, my thoughts.
Oh, I felt the same way
but
for a long,
when using a
long
round,
time.
I think it's, to me, I've always been convinced that, you've got this destructive beam. You've got either a wide sweeping shovel or this destructive fucking beam of light that is just going to tear into the fucking skin. So for me, I have a hard time. Like again, there's a learning curve, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, it took me I don't know, maybe a month to figure out most of it. And even now, you know, of course, every day you get more and more comfortable repeating the same thing over and over again. But now I find that I can catch one needle on that round and get
that edge.
Get that edge. I mean, like I said, half the time I'm setting up for one machine for a whole tattoo, and I can get super thin lines. I can get thicker lines. I can get wide lines.
That was something I wanted to say, because back in the day, I remember everybody at Darkside being able to use these, because I got the name Joey Razors back in the day because of using tight threes.
Yep.
And I think the max.
I remember you telling me that you had a harder time with 5s and 3s, and Eric and I were like, dude, it's the opposite for us.
Exactly, because you guys were the first ones I saw doing everything, with the exception of stuff you saw in the magazines, obviously, but the first people I'd seen in person using the fucking 8 rounds, fucking loose 9s, whatever, to line everything. But till this day, Eric can. You know, and I'm sure you can as well, where you're lining stuff, but you get different line weights with the same needle. Where with me, I'm still setting up. I usually set up on average two liners, 3 and a 7, a 5 and a 9, you know, a 7 and a 14. You know what I mean? Like breaking it up that way.
What kind of liners are you using? Bug pins or standards?
No, standards.
See, I switched to bug pins for my liners too.
So my problem with anything bug pin, with the exception of black and gray, is it slows me the fuck down. Like I cannot move as quickly as I can. Like you get, again, smoother shading, and I also don't like those wicked thin fucking lines. I want my line to have a little bit more teeth to it.
The different thing is that, so
and don't get me wrong,
like
that's not to say that I don't have 2 sets of liners.
Yeah.
Like I do have wicked tight liners, and I have like standard liners.
Yeah, if I want a bigger line, I don't use a bug pin.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm using 5 bug pins for like really small line stuff, whereas normally I'd use a really tight 3, but the bug pins being smaller, I can get real tight lines of those. And this is for stuff where I have to use an outliner.
Right.
Because some things you really should.
Yeah,
you know?
No.
Some tattoos, a lot of the black and gray stuff that I do, you don't need to have a rigid outline throughout the whole thing.
Which is like, that's like the big, like that's the whole black and gray realism thing right now. And that's pretty much taking it over. Where I don't think your black and gray is realism as much as it is the foundations of realism, but with your own flair. The way it's done.
I like doing realism, but I also like to make it look like a drawing.
Right.
Almost like it's a paper with a certain texture or tooth to the paper.
Right.
Where you see some of the marks from the pencil. I like that kind of look in a black and gray piece as well. But then again, you know, as years go on, that drawing look goes away because everything settles and smooths out. Right. And it's going to get smoothed out eventually.
So that's been my biggest thing is like, you're going to get there eventually. Mm-hmm. So I don't want that in between. And don't get me wrong, I shouldn't say I don't want the in between, because that in between does look good in certain aspects. You know what I mean? But I wonder what clients are going to start thinking when their tattoos do smooth out to this really super nice, fine black and gray, smooth black and gray, and they lose that peppery shading. And you think people are going to look down the line 5 years down the line and be like, yeah, man, do you think you could bring back those hash marks and make it
good question?
Because I mean, people look at color work when they look at it and they go, oh, you know, it's not as bright. I'm like, yeah, because it's an 8-year-old tattoo. That's what happens to tattoos when they get older. They age, they settle, and they just get old. That's what
absolutely
happens. So I wonder what's going to happen. You know, I mean, granted, tattoos this big with those hash marks are either going to turn black or just hopefully fall out.
Yeah.
Most likely turn
black. I think unfortunately, a lot of that stuff that people are doing now, like especially I'm so sick of people calling it fine line because it's not fine line. Real fine line single needle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And people are coming in now with fine line where it's just a skinny outline, but that's almost the whole tattoo and that's it.
Yeah, and they look at it and they go, oh, this is fine line. I'm like, that's a tight 5. That's not a fine line.
Exactly.
Because fine line is fucking fine.
Oh yeah, fine line's like a human hair.
Yeah.
And fuck that, because that shit hurts like a motherfucker. Oh.
I'm not gonna say anything because that's like I said. I still use. I mean, now I don't go anything. The tightest I'll go is like a bug pin 3, but even that, you know, it doesn't work on every.
It still feels like a razor blade. But yeah, it does feel when you're lining with a super tight needle.
Sometimes you gotta uphold the fucking name, dude. You gotta bring the name back.
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's just a byproduct of what happens to get that line in there.
But it was also the same thing that's what put me on the map. That's what separates my art or my tattoos from other people's tattoos, is because 9 times out of 10 there will be 2 or 3 line weights. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because you want that. to me, I don't want everything to look the same. I want everything to have its own feel.
Yep.
You know, and again, because I was trained traditionally, everything usually has a line, has an outline on it.
Yeah.
Even the piece I was doing today, the black and gray piece, he sent me color realism. I mean, black and gray realism. This is what I'm going to do, and he's fine with it. I mean, he's been tattooed.
That piece looked great.
You know, but yeah, this is the way people work. You know what I mean? And again, I don't necessarily want to tattoo like, you know, a Pinterest artist. I don't want my stuff to look like what everybody else is doing, even though that is really what is being asked for nowadays. You know, like how much of that have you faced in the coming years? Because you do come from the early '90s. You've watched things change and progress. Do you have enough clientele that you're not stressed over the young people coming into your shop?
I never worry about it.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm also, when new stuff comes out, I like if a new style comes out and I've never seen it or done it before, if someone comes in and wants me to do it, I'm excited to try and do something new all the time.
Right.
And again, that's another reason why I never want to do one thing over and over again. I like constantly doing new stuff.
Right.
So I look forward to seeing some of the new trends, to see if there will be new trends and stuff.
I mean, there's always going to be, I think. There's always going to be.
But I think, answer your question, yeah, people coming in and showing us the same stuff over and over again on the phone. Like, I've seen the same reference for certain tattoos 50 fucking times.
Oh, yeah.
And it's annoying because it's like creativity's kind of going out the window from a client standpoint. Like, they want you to repeat a picture a lot of the times that they see instead of coming in with an idea and letting you interpret it or run with it a certain way. The other thing that is annoying about this, a lot of the online social media representation of tattoos, is a lot of it's dishonest.
Oh, fuck yeah. Filters.
You know?
I mean, everything.
And I mean, I hashtag all my stuff, no filters, no bullshit. That said, recently I have a polarizing lens.
Yes.
To try and get rid of glare on stuff so that the picture I'm taking looks like what I'm looking at when I'm looking at.
You're trying to match the photo. You're not trying to create a better version of what you're
or an unattainable version.
Yeah.
Because you got people coming in there showing me a tattoo and like the black is like fucking deep space.
Pitch black, yeah.
That's unachievable.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Or whites that are super bright. Never gonna fucking happen.
We recently had somebody come in and they were looking for work, and my thing was, when I looked at his portfolio online, I said to him, I was like, here's the deal, dude, I need to see your work either in person or unfiltered. Mm-hmm. And to his credit, he went out, got a bunch of unfiltered photos, like took them, brought them in, and brought somebody in to show me, and his work is solid as fuck. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing that pisses me off. Half the people that are doing this stuff, or not half, a majority of them that are doing this shit, their work is fucking fine the way it is.
Yes.
Just take an honest fucking picture of it.
Yeah.
Don't leave the rest of us to constantly explain to people coming in that that is not realistic.
So that's been the biggest issue, is having to deal with the repercussions.
Fucking annoying.
Having to deal with the repercussions of them doing that, because that puts you in a poor light, because they just look at it as, oh, well, you can't do it.
Motherfucker, neither can that guy.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You just want to be like, dude, that's not real. Black and white does not exist in a tattoo. I shouldn't say that. It doesn't exist in 99.8% of tattoos. Mm-hmm. You know, there are people out there that will hold black and fucking nothing. You know, it will look like a proper black and white tattoo because of their skin tone. But that is not...
those are fucking unicorns.
Exactly. That is not realistic for the average, especially the average.
For 99.9% of the clients coming in, no way.
Yeah, and if you're over the age of fucking 40, you ain't getting that. You know what I mean?
Hell no.
So it is one of those situations where, you know, we're forced to have to educate and defend ourselves in the same breath, because nobody understands where we're coming from. Like, this isn't us shitting on your idea.
That's part of our frustration with the younger generation of people doing this shit. At 30 fucking something years of tattooing, I shouldn't fucking have to explain myself to someone coming in.
But again, that's part of the world we live in. Everybody is just too smart for their own fucking good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like everything they need is right in their fucking the palm of their hands. So what are you going to tell them that they haven't already read or seen on YouTube? You know what I mean? And that's kind of the biggest issue. And again, this is where I go back to, we gave up a lot by basically letting people come in and go, can you do this? No. Take it off the wall. You know what I mean? And again, that sounds really crude, and that sounds like me being the old guy being like, fuck this fucking Pinterest bullshit. Dude, I have a Pinterest account. I look at what's going on. I pull reference from Pinterest. You know
sure, absolutely.
So let me ask you a question. How did? Oh, so sorry.
I was just gonna say the internet's a great tool to use for reference.
Most certainly, I always had it.
Back in the day,
back in the day, we had this.
Yeah, you had to go to a fucking bookstore or the library.
Countless books. I mean, dude, I have fucking 3 bookshelves upstairs, and I've got 4 at my house. Yep. I mean, granted, honestly, the last time I cracked one of these books was for some Japanese reference because everything I'm finding online is what everybody else is doing now. Mm-hmm. So to be able to go back and fucking pull a book off the shelf that didn't make it to a scanner and didn't maybe made it to skin, but nobody decided to post it online. Yep. So now it's like I can pull stuff from here that you're probably not going to find on Pinterest or fucking Google. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm going back to this now more and more because there's stuff that you can't find anymore. You know, I've got Japanese manga from fucking from the fucking late 70s. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really exist anymore. No. You know, I've got a bunch of Japanese reference from probably like late 70s, early 80s to like fucking when I was there in 2000, you know? Mm-hmm. So, and again, my collection's probably pitiful compared to other people. But it is one of those situations.
Mine used to be big like yours, and I sold almost all my books, except for ones that are out of print, hard to find.
Like I said, these are
valuable.
The ones that are valuable are at home. I don't, because I'm always afraid someone's going to open a book that's cost me fucking $500. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
and even those books, I don't even.
Yeah, I keep mine in the back room.
I'm going to ruin them.
I keep them in the back room on a shelf that nobody touches.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, but again, I like having these here because I do like when a client goes up there and it's like, "Can I look at these?" And I'm like, "Please." Mm-hmm. You know, every now and again you'll get someone coming in like, "Man, I think I'm like an old school piece of Flash," and they'll bring up something on their phone, and I'm like, "No," and I'll pull a book off a shelf, look through this. Yep. Like this is something that you're not going to find outside of this artist. Yeah, and I would love to do.
We ended up buying a bunch more Flash just for reasons like that too. Because some people come in, they have no idea what they want, and they're like, "What do you think I should get?" And I'm like, "Look through some of the books, see if something sparks an idea, and at least get a starting point to jump off."
Well, that's why we do the Flash walk-in days. Is because it started with a bunch. We do themed walk-in days for the most part because it's easier for us to wrap our head around creating Flash for an event. Mm-hmm. It also creates a hubbub around an event, whether it be Halloween or St. Patty's Day or fucking whatever. Yeah.
People love that shit.
Exactly, and people will come out for those events because of that, and that's kind of where you want to go with it. I mean, I want to enjoy myself, and it's great to have people look at stuff and go, "Ooh, I think I want to get that one. Ooh, I think I want to get that one. Ooh," and they're picking based off the fact that instant of coming in, looking on the wall, and getting it. It brings you back to the days from the 90s, where people got tattooed just for the sake of getting tattooed or be part of something or whatever. Yep. You know, where it didn't have all this like hubbub about, "Oh, I had to find the right one online." It's like, dude, 1 million people have seen that. Like, I drew this Flash. You know what I mean? You're one of 5 people that might get it. You know? So it's nice to see it coming back to that.
Yeah. I look forward to it. I hope it does turn around more like that again.
So going back a little tiny bit, AI?
I don't use it at all.
At all?
Nope.
Now, have you ever pulled reference from it? And do you think...
One time, because I had to do St. Michael number 452.
Fuck, not for nothing. There's a lot of St. Michael AI reference online.
Oh, well, I used one of them, and just for part of it. Like I sometimes, like instead of using AI or whatever, and the same references over and over again, like I'll go out looking for reference, and I like the head off something like this in this position, and I'll put that in. And I'll look for wings from different things. A lot of statues. I love using statues for reference.
Well, so does AI.
Yeah. But I'm able to control it myself by picking out all these things. Whereas AI, it does a decent job of it, but you got to go over that shit with a fine-tooth comb. Oh, yeah. Because there's some fucking weird shit going on in there that makes no sense.
I just watched somebody do a fucking, it was like a guardian angel. It wasn't St. Michael, but it was like some kind of guardian angel with a sword. Yep. Dude, this motherfucker had I couldn't even imagine how many, it had to be like a dozen fucking like stomach muscles. You know what I mean? It's like his pecs were like fucking knotted, like none of it looked good, but none of it looked real, and it was almost, I think almost all of it went into the tattoo. And you look at it, and you're like, first of all, why would you put that much detail into something? Mm-hmm. Not simplify it a tiny bit. You know what I mean? Just draw the fucking thing, or not even redraw it, retrace it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it looks more realistic. You know?
Sure.
But how much do you think it's changing the way that tattoos look now.
A lot.
Tremendous.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when the statue thing, when the Godhead thing first started popping up, it changed how people did tattoos and what we looked at when we saw tattoos. Now with AI, I think it's jumped the shark on that again, where there's more to be seen that looks just like that, and we're seeing more and more of that kind of stuff.
And unfortunately, it's again killing creativity.
Yeah.
I think it's all right to personally. My take on it, I think it's all right to use once in a while if you're stuck, you can't find reference, you've done the same thing 1,000 times, you want to try and make it different again. But if it becomes a crutch and you're using it every day and you're not putting any of yourself into anything, that's where I would have a problem.
See, I've not gone down the road of AI. I've been saying this for nearly a year now, where I do, because I like the idea of using this, like you said, a crutch. Not a crutch, but using it as another tool to create something that may take me in a slightly different direction, make my job a little bit easier, that I can redraw something. Yeah. Because even when I copied reference of pinups and stuff like that, I always change. I don't think AI is ever going to match the way I draw, nor do I want it to.
No.
But I would like to take what it's doing and then add my flair to it so that it looks like I still did it, but have the ease of knowing that, I just grabbed this online and I did this, that, and everything. Which is kind of what I've done my entire career anyway. So
but you've always put
a flair.
Joe Cap signature on everything that you do and draw.
Yeah. I don't think as many people do that, unfortunately, which is kind of
no. That's where I take. If you're going to sit there and copy it verbatim, that's where I'm like,
But that's what we have in the industry right now. I mean, and again, I'm not taking away from
I copy a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, with some of the work that I do and the styles that I do more of, a lot of it is like someone wants a copy of this painting, a copy of this statue, a copy of this picture.
You have to make the tattoo version of that particular piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I think that, again, it's never going to be completely lost, but a lot of what makes the headlines of what we consider social media is just the same thing over and over and over. Again, I would love to be able to fast forward, and I'm hoping to be around for 15, 20 years where I can get some guy who's been tattooing for 2 years today come up to me in 20 years and be like, fucking told you, it looks fucking good still. I'm down with that. I'm totally down.
I hope for the customer's sake, I hope that happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, even for the tattoo artist, I'm sure these guys want to be just vindicated in their own light, because I've been shit talking these fucks for a while. You know what I mean? And again, it's not because
some of them deserve it.
No, honestly, yeah, because I've seen stuff. So much bad shit. You know what I mean? And none of that makes the internet, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You had certain things that were toeing the line, like Tattoo Truth Fairy and stuff like that.
I love that.
That was amazing to see, dude. And it wasn't because I wanted to see them shit on.
No, it's because you want.
I want to see. I want it brought to light. I want other people to see. If you're cool with that looking like absolute dog shit in 2 months, get it, man.
Yeah. Or it's nice to have someone else backing up what you're saying when you're the one telling people that's bullshit.
Exactly.
It's nice to have someone actually back you up.
Yeah, to simply say. My wife takes photos of women's hands. Like, tattoos on the sides and knuckles and whatnot, just to show these young women that come in at 18, 19 years old. I want to get this a rose down here. I want this. I want that. And she'll be like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. And 9 times out of 10, the person's still going to go, well, I still want it.
Yeah.
All right, cool, whatever. But she does the.
We were all young once. We remember what it was like to have that same exact attitude.
Exactly, but we lived in a different world. Plus, look what we do for a living. These fucking broads are probably going to move on to do what? Sell insurance.
Good question.
You know what I mean? Like,
it
but
is
again,
fucked up, though.
everything is getting easier to swallow, I guess.
But it is fucked up with a lot of younger kids now. They come in, they go right for the hand, right for the neck, right for the face.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you've come to me and you're 18 years old and you're like, I want to get my face tattooed.
Yeah. No, I haven't done. I won't do faces.
I'm not doing it.
I won't do regardless.
Nope.
Yeah.
No, I'd have no problem doing it on you or someone that's covered in tattoos.
Right. Oh yeah.
Or I know that they're all set and they don't have to worry about judgment, or they just don't care. But when you're 18, you don't know your ass from your fucking elbow. I'm not going to fucking be the one to game over your face.
Exactly. Game over your face.
Fuck that.
All right. Do you want to go out? Sounding like an old man?
Sure, why not?
Okay, perfect.
Well, I am. I'm 50 now, so.
Is there anything you want to touch on besides that we haven't? You don't feel we touched on?
No, but if I think of anything, hopefully we can come back and do it again.
Most certainly, dude. I mean, I'm completely, especially since you were willing.
I gotta get out of my neck of the woods once in a while.
Nice.
I pretty much stayed myself up there.
Nice. Well, I'm going to put all of Lou's information in the description of the video, his website, his shop, all that information is going to go there. And if you guys would like, please comment on anything that we talked about. You know what I mean? Like and subscribe. Spread the fucking word. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure, Joe. Always good to see you.
Same here, man. See you when I see you.